We are committed to justice as a peace-building group. Mayati Allah debunks any association with banditry.
Federal government to make available 500 CNG refueling stations across the country for the next 3 years.
Green solutions beckon as Nigeria positions for climate financing at COP30.
One of the things we've tried to do is to secure the competence in-house as well as also the funding required to prepare those projects.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today, our focus is on the just concluded PDP convention.
After years of internal squabbles, rancor, and allegations of disloyalty within the PDP, it seems the party may finally be turning a new page with the emergence of Kabiru Taminu Turaki as national chairman.
And over the weekend, the ancient city of Ibadan in Oyo State became the focal point of party faithfuls, politicians, and technocrats who gathered to make a decisive statement on who leads the party as the 2027 general elections draws closer.
That's true, Jumai. Quite a breather, especially given how long and winding the road to this moment has been for a party seeking rejuvenation. Indeed,
seeking rejuvenation. And from one of Nigeria's oldest political parties, the journey has been anything but smooth, from stumbles and accusations to counter-accusations and conflicting court orders.
And you will recall that since the 2023 general elections, the PDP struggled to find its footing. Factionalism, legal battles, and uncertainty over the possibility of holding a valid convention all raised questions about the party's stability.
Indeed, very true. And even the claims by former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido about being shut out from buying the nomination form for national chairman only fueled the tension. But that roadblock appeared to lift when on the 15th and 16th of November, the Damagum-led faction recognized by INEC successfully conducted the convention, which also saw the expulsion of some members for alleged anti-party activities.
And now, the signs of hope many party members have been looking for may just be emerging. Their optimism about a more harmonized structure, a reconnected grassroots, and a rebuilt confidence seems to hinge strongly on the choice of Kabiru Taminu Turaki, SAN.
And they also believe his track record as a former Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs could help steer the party towards a much-needed rebirth and project a more united front.
So today on Good Morning Nigeria, we review the dynamics and outcome of the 2025 PDP National Convention held in the historical city of Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I am Jumoy Yusuf. We are reaching you live from the nation's capital on the network service of the NTA. So you're welcome to the program, the first in the week. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we broadcast live on the network service of the NTA. And don't forget that newspaper review will be coming up in a moment. But let's begin with the highlights of the morning news by Chine Nwoye. Chine, good morning. It's good to see you.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Just before we bring in our panel of guests for our conversation this morning on PDP convention, let's take this background report by Timothy Yusuf.
The PDP Elective National Convention that just wrapped up in Ibadan, Oyo State was a wide ride, to say the least. Despite conflicting court orders and internal power struggles, the convention pushed through and Kabiru Tanimu Turaki SAN emerged as the new national chairman, securing 1,516 votes with no opposition. Turaki vowed to rebuild unity and restore internal cohesion within the PDP, aiming to reposition the party for the 2027 general elections. Analysts say the convention was, however, marred by disagreements over zoning, accreditation delays, and allegations of last-minute scheming by rival factions. Additionally, notable governors who skipped the convention include Ademola Adeleke of Osun State, Agbu Kefas of Taraba, and Siminalaye Fubara of Rivers State, sparking speculation about internal divisions. An Oyo State High Court cleared the PDP to proceed with the convention, while a federal High Court in Abuja restrained INEC from recognizing the outcome, citing non-compliance with electoral laws. Another concern, however, erupted during the convention, which was the expulsion of the party notable members over anti-party activities. They include the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, former Governor Ayo Fayose, PDP National Secretary Senator Samuel Anyanwu, the National Organizing Secretary Umar Bature, and some others. Chairman of the National Convention Organizing Committee and Governor of Adamawa State and his Plateau State counterpart, Caleb Mufwang, however, distanced themselves from the expulsion. The PDP's future hangs in the balance as the party navigates this internal crisis and prepares for the 2027 elections. Will Turaki's leadership be the turning point the party needs, or will the divisions tear it apart? Only time will tell. Over now to our guest in the studio for more insights.
And thank you so much, Efemuti Yusuf, for that background report on the PDP convention. And we have guests here in the studio to push this conversation and break it down. Let me first introduce Honorable Shaba Ibrahim, former member House of Representatives and legal practitioner. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. It's good to see you.
It's my pleasure to be here. Good morning, Nigerians.
And we also have Jide Ojo, a public affairs analyst, looking like an Oba. What is your title? Tell me a little.
Today is not easy. Today is
it's Oba.
High Chief.
Okay, High Chief.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians. It's a pleasure to be here.
Also joining us in the studio to discuss the PDP convention is Dr. Adoyi Matthew Omale, political scientist. He's also here with us in the studio. Dr. Omale, it's good to have you again.
Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for having me.
We also have in the studio Timothy Osadolo, is the Deputy National Youth Leader for PDP. Timothy, it's good to have you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me in the studio this
All right.
morning.
Okay, thank you. So let's just kickstart the conversation by looking at, what led to the convention, the activities that happened, several, conflicting court orders, the Ibadan saying you can go ahead, Abuja court saying no, don't go ahead. Do you think the party made the right decision? And what are the implications, does this have for the party's future? Let me even start from Honorable. Since you are a legal practitioner, maybe you can help us out here.
And a politician too.
Thank you very much. I think just the week before last, we were here and on the same issue. I did make the point that the PDP was going about. I was very certain they would go ahead with the convention. I did say that, yes, knowing the modus operandi and the pedigree of some of the drivers of the party machinery. And it looks to me like taking what I would call unjustified risk. You see, the PDP crisis, whichever way you look at it, is also tied to some form of lack of obedience to court order, setting the scaffolding to lawlessness. And you don't need multiple court orders to be able to restrain yourself from taking certain steps. For instance, Justice Omotoshaw's judgment was clear, unambiguous. take out certain prerequisites and you can go ahead with your convention if you did that. There was nothing wrong with talking to that decision rather than taking the ingenious route of going to Ibadan, what we call forum shopping, which is clearly an abuse of court process. There's no way the court in Ibadan will pretend not to be aware of the Omotosho judgment. I made that point absolutely clear. And it's like the crisis. Those who are hopeful that we could have a convention that will resolve the major issues in the party, those who believe that the exit of certain gladiators will pave way for peace in the party, are thoroughly disappointed as it is. You see, my worry continues to be whatever you say about the PDP, whatever you say about the activities of certain persons, howsoever unnoble they may have been in the past, you also have to worry about the PDP not knowing how to navigate the legal terrain properly rather than continue, because we're really in a squabble now. We have tied ourselves up so much that I don't know how we're able to extricate from all of this at the end of the day. For a party, I got some very disturbing information, I mean, after the last session here, that the party is not really even prepared to abide by rule of law. Yes, let me post you. If you have a party where people sit down at the conclusion of every judgment, even when the National Legal Advisor writes an opinion, and that opinion is subjected to voting by a certain group, they have to vote on whether to obey or disobey court order. I mean, that is quite audacious in my view. And there is no better definition of lawlessness. The judgment of a court is not, like I maintain, and I still do, it's not a buffet. You don't pick and choose. You don't obey as a matter of convenience. You either appeal it or you obey it. You can't do neither. And to subject the judgment of a court to popular decision, you sit down and say, oh, there are 7 of us in this room, let's take a vote. If 5 says don't obey, so be it. Where you have, you're foisting upon the party what you call the tyranny of the majority in direct confrontation with the rule of law and legality. It is so difficult to comprehend for people like me. And like I did say earlier on, I won't be a party to such illegality.
Okay. So from a legal standpoint, yes. Now, what does this contradiction mean for the legitimacy of the convention? So, because I've been reading all over throughout the weekend, it's not legal, there's no, and all that. So, what does it mean?
You see,
for the convention?
no matter in whatever garb you decide to borrow it, it is illegal ab initio. And whatever steps you take from an illegal gathering, so to speak, is tainted. Whatever outcome is tainted with the initial illegality. The court have said no. You cannot bat anything legal from an illegal assembly. As far as the law is concerned, that initial illegality will taint the outcome of whatever you have come up with. So I don't want to even go into the nitty-gritty, but to have decided, not unsurprising to me though, because I have made that point, to go ahead with the convention, irrespective of Justice Omotosho's judgment. Soon thereafter, you had the Lamido decision. It's enough effrontery. These are the kind of things that cannot bat democracy. These are the kind of things that cannot give rise to anything meaningful as far as the law is concerned. So we really need to... I don't know where the party is headed, but honestly, these are very frightening scenarios. I thought that people would be circumspect about the situation we are. A major opposition party now sulking like a weakling in the committee of parties is not what the PDP deserves.
Okay, Jide, let me ask you, how do you respond to critics who say, that this convention is illegitimate, despite, various court orders and internal disputes? How do you respond to that?
Thank you, Demola. My own reading of this whole thing is the belief in some quarter within PDP that Justice Omotoso's ruling, I don't think it's a judgment, it's a ruling, that it's not in consonance with a previous Supreme Court decision that have said issues around party administration and management is entirely internal affairs of the party. And they are working to that assumption. It's an assumption. But until you get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court affirmed that assumption, you are presumed to be wrong. I don't know whether I'm making sense. This is the way I see it. Okay, when I listen to some of the people who masterminded the Ibadan, I don't want to call it carnival.
Convention.
Ibadan convention.
Convention.
It's a convention.
It's a convention. The assumption, what I got from them is that there had been a Supreme Court decision that this is not about nomination, Section 88 of the Electoral Act, no, Section 84 of the Electoral Act, which talks about nomination of candidates, where court can intervene. And they cited the Supreme Court decision on Plateau that says, you know, in Plateau case, it's a very dicey situation. The tribunal said PDP does not have structure and could not have produced candidate. Then the Court of Appeal reinforced that decision. And that was why all the PDP members who were elected in the Plateau State House of Assembly, Senate, and House of Reps lost their seat. But the luck Governor Caleb Mutfwang had was that his own case proceeded to the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court now said, no, this issue is, you cannot say a party does not have structure. It does not belong to, and you know, the Supreme Court has also said similar things in Labour Party and in one other party decision, where they say, look, the issue of management administration is an internal affairs. Now, the people who held the Ibadan Convention were of that opinion that because there is a Supreme Court decision. Okay. Now, until you now get back to that Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court affirmed that this is also within that same previous, because we have had situation with politicians is that they are very audacious. Apology, I don't know whether I should apologize. They are risk takers. Yeah. And that's the assumption. Now, this is, whether it's procedurally right or wrong, it is for the court to determine. But what I see is that the Makinde group, the Bala Mohammed group, are mindful of time. And they believe that if they wait in consonance with Justice Omotoso's ruling, they will lose the valuable time. Ahead of 2027. Because what the Justice Omotoso is saying is that there are some states that did not go through the normal congresses and that go and conduct congresses until when you have fulfilled all of that, then you can have your convention. Now, Congress is not something you flippantly just go and conduct. Now, this is November. By January, February next year, INEC will blow the whistle, give timeline for 2027. Before the middle of next year, it will be time for campaigns. So if you have not resolved your issue of leadership, it becomes problematic for you to field candidates. So they possibly, because if you listen to Damagun after Justice Omotoso's decision, Damagun said, we are going to appeal this decision. And they have filed an appeal. I don't know whether you are following me. They have filed an appeal. Now, to wait for the outcome of the appellate court, they could not wait. They are now presuming that, don't worry, by the time this whole issue gets to Supreme Court, we are going to be on the winning side. But that's very, I don't know how best to call it. So the challenge now is that it's a waiting game. Saminu Turaki that has been elected is
not Saminu Turaki.
No, I mean Kabir Turaki. Thanks for the correction. Kabir Turaki is a senior advocate. He's a lawyer. But what I foresee is that PDP will be in and out of court until Supreme Court rules whether they will now be in a position to field candidate, because it's all time bound now. The Saminu Turaki and the Kabir Turaki will come back, want to access the headquarters. If there is a counter force, they may lock down the office. You start looking for another office. And you know the INEC did not even cover or observe the Ibadan Convention.
Yeah.
So I don't know what weight that has, because observation does not mean it wasn't conducted by INEC. So if the law says come and observe, and you choose not to observe based on certain court decision, you are not in breach. But whether that invalidates the convention is for the courts to determine. So the PDP will be in and out of court, and that's why you see a lot of governors bailing out. Already we are told that Abuja first will join APC in the next 2 days, 1 or 2 days. We don't know where Ademola Adeleke is going. Even the decision to expel some of the members of the party, the two governors dissociated themselves.
Yes.
So it's a lot on the plate of PDP, and they have my sympathy.
Yes, there's a lot on the plate of the PDP, and still on the court cases. And let's bring in Dr. Adoye Matthew Amale into this conversation. The PDP cited the Supreme Court ruling, on non-interference in internal party affairs. So does that principle, apply in this particular case of this convention?
Well, the events of the last few years in the PDP is very regrettable. Regrettable because rather than bicker over all these issues, Nigerians demand good governance, Nigeria demands good opposition, which the PDP was supposed to provide. Unfortunately, certain forces have come to thwart the PDP's capacity to provide this opposition, credible opposition.
What are the forces?
The forces that are tearing apart the party. Whether we like it or not, the PDP was in government. One of the problems with the PDP is that there is no central political figure now that can wield the party together. We saw what Obasanjo did, even at that time when the PDP was in power. We saw that the presidency was, all in all, was in firm control, down to the Yaradua presidency, to the Jonathan's presidency. This crisis became more pronounced when the PDP lost the 2015 election. That is when the PDP started sliding. At the central. Yes, at the central, started sliding. And by the time they lost the 2023 election, many of its members had already been absorbed by other political parties, and the party finds itself where it is today. So the Supreme Court ruling is a right ruling, because internal affairs of political parties are internal affairs of political parties. It is unfortunate that the courts now have to come in to now start determining which convention is good, which convention is not legal, which is illegal, which to my mind is not supposed to be. Political parties have internal mechanisms to resolve their issue. The Board of Trustees is there. Other organs of the party are there that are supposed to look into internal disagreements the way they are, rather than taking the matters to court. Court cannot determine who membership or who the leadership of a political party are. I think that's the sense the Supreme Court is making. And, this is politics. The various groups are already charged, and for whatever reason, it could be that some of the groups are being influenced by parties outside the PDP. Others could be influenced by pecuniary motives. So there are various motives. Others can be
motivated by power, to grab power. And all these are not in the interest of the PDP. On the legality of the convention, the two judgments or the various judgments are from court of coordinate jurisdiction. They are all from High Court. The one is the State High Court, the other is the Federal High Court. But they are High Courts.
Which carries more weight here?
I don't think this is the issue of carrying more weight. The issue of carrying more weight does not arise. They are all Federal High Courts. Like my colleague Jide Ojo has said, the Supreme Court or the appellate court will have to decide which is which, and which, to my mind, will not be very healthy for the PDP, because they will just be going to court, while the other political parties are consolidating, mobilizing support for 2027. They will just be going to court and fighting over. The court will keep them busy, which may not be good for the PDP as a political party. How they are going to wrestle out of the quagmire they are in today, it will be very surprising, because they have been boxed into a corner. The PDP has been boxed into a corner, and if they are not careful, we are going to witness some of the scenarios that happened in the past, where some parties may not be able to field candidates for election because of all these, especially if you involve
the internal crisis.
Yes, if you involve the courts, there are going to be several pronouncements, there are going to be several litigations, there are going to be up and down, up to the Supreme Court and so on. And before you know it, it will water down the impact of the party. And you can see it. Most of the governors of the party and other national elected officials on the platform of the PDP, they are all confused now. They don't know what to do, whether to continue pursuing their ambition under the PDP or find alternative platform to advance their. It is a fallout of all this uncertainty that is happening. And the way politicians operate, nobody wants to put their destiny into an unknown venture. Okay. Because as it is now, nobody is sure of what next is going to happen within the PDP. If anybody will beat his chest and tell you that he is very confident about what is going to happen, that person is lying. Because when you put the political parties' fate in the hands of the judiciary has its own eye in which it looks at issues. And maybe at the time that you least expected, the sun is here, they will just make a pronouncement, either nullifying everything that have gone on or upholding everything that had gone on. At a time that you are handicapped, you can no longer do anything. And then you will be discovered that you have been left in the lock. And then other parties will profit from what is happening.
All right.
I think the PDP should look at itself. All the stakeholders should tell each other the truth and let the party move. The interest of the party is more than all this tussling. If genuinely they are all interested in the progress of this country, they should be able to put aside all their differences and then allow the system to function. Because the most important thing actually in politics is for you to be able to organize yourself and get power.
Okay. So, thank you very much, Dr. Mali. They should put aside their differences so that all this confusion, because Timothy, let me bring you in, because you are the Deputy National Leader, Youth, for the PDP, and it's like the convention has thrown in more confusion than it was before. And as a youth leader, how are you taking all this development? How would you describe it? What is the stand of the youth of the party concerning the convention?
Anytime I have to speak about the PDP, I feel pained that we talk about we are having to talk about a divided PDP, a PDP that is struggling, a PDP that is bleeding, and a PDP that seems to have lost direction or focus. And these are problems that are very, very much avoidable if we just only stick to our books or follow the procedures in our guidelines. 90% of the problems we have, or we are discussing about, or the countries even discussing about, that the PDP has, will not even arise. When my learned brother was talking about subjecting the position of law as advised by the National Legal Advisor to debate, it is true. Very, very, and it's a worrisome development. If you have a competent court judgment, the National Legal Advisor will sit down, a senior advocate of Nigeria for that matter, with all the lawyers under him in the directorate, they will sit down and write a position before the party leadership. Then you will now ask people who didn't even go to law school or evening school at times when they teach law to come and subject those kind of decisions to debate and start doing eyes and nails of it. That's to tell you how far we have lost traction. Ordinarily, before the gale of suspensions and counter suspensions, Ambassador Ilya Damagun would have been a fantastic administrator, but he was just a puppet leader with the big men behind the scene, all the way from Ibadan across, all putting their different interests on him. And when you have conflicting interests, you are bound to have this kind of disaster we have now, because the interests are not coming from normal Nigerians or normal party members. They are coming from the Egbons who claims to own and own not even the party but the air that members of the party breathe, which is not so. Ordinarily, if after that judgment of Justice Omotosho, you would have expected that right-thinking people would say, okay, oh boy, what do we do about this issue? What do we do? Well, let's sit down. Let's conclude on these issues. Rather, power ego trip. You started suspending people. Meanwhile, part of the basic issues, the concluded congresses in states and in zones were left unaddressed. The power play and the desperate ambition to have an early Christmas party in Ibadan was just driving some of the leaders. Then the factional beauty chairman, Wabara, who's on his own set up a reconciliation team headed by Wakili Adamawa, and I think I had former Chief of Staff to the President Ogadome as a member. You asked them to go around on one hand, and meanwhile you had a mindset on the other hand to rubbish their reports. They brought a report suggesting how best to come out of this imbroglio. They told you, their reports suggested delaying this convention. Their reports suggested meeting with all critical stakeholders on both ends and following through with Justice Omotosho's advice. Then you that set up that committee of eminent people, you rubbish that report and said that they were compromised. Who are you to say these men were compromised? What is there to also show that he himself was not compromised? You see, the truth is this problem of the PDP has no matter even if you settle it today now, PDP will not be in a good state for 2027 federal elections, because there will still be, before you go through all the litigations and start healing the votes and the support base that you have lost, where do you start from to try to get them back? So I think these grandstandings on both sides of the divides are very unnecessary, and the PDP name, even though that the PDP has come to stay in the heart of so many Nigerians, by now, what the PDP has gone through the last 1 year or 2 years, I don't see any political party in this country that can withstand 6 months of it.
It saddens me that you are the future of the party. You're a young man coming up, and we know that almost 70% of Nigerians are youths. It's so disheartening to hear that coming from you, because the future of democracy lies on your shoulders. And this thing that happened now, does it deepen, the factions, the existing factions that is in the PDP? How do you begin, as the youths of Nigeria, begin to reconstruct everything back to the way it used to be?
There are two things. Either we wait for all of these old men to die off on their own naturally.
Oh, you want to kill them?
No, that's why I said that we wait for them to die off on their own naturally. Because all of these players, there's no one less than 65 now. So at the end of the day, they have nothing less than 10, 15 years active partisanship. It's either we wait for them to die off naturally
Come on.
of their own, or you can say that, but it's a sad situation in this country. Because at the end of the day, these people you are talking about, you are youth. Where are the means and the resources for them to sit at the table of power, to look at these people and say, let us kick them all of them out? Yes, the youth made an attempt in 2023 general elections. How far, how well did it go? See, until we have deepened electoral reforms, that is when the youth of this country stand a chance to take possession of their fatherland. Until we have a credible elections, that is when you will now know that the youth can actually decide what will happen in this country. Anything aside deep electoral reforms and credible elections, the youth will just remain the youth that will be mobilized for campaigns and mobilized to shout hallelujah and play drums. Beyond that, nothing will happen or nothing will change. You will just wait for this old man to die off naturally, or just look for other things to be doing till they die off. The truth is this, we must ask for electoral reforms going forward. The lawmakers we have, we must take them to task. You see, even amongst the ruling electorate senators, I think the former governor of Edo, Adam Shomole, was telling his Senate president, oh, please, the way you are hurrying through all of these bills and motions, even me, I'm confused though. Please take it easy so I will understand what we are talking about. So when you now have a law tomorrow, and you say I was there and I have nothing to say about it, or I don't understand it. So that is why we must hold on all of these town halls they are doing, first, second, third reading, or whatever reading, or the goodwill message he sends to their email bosses to them. We must scrutinize all of these things and know where we stand. And we must stop electing old men who are going to make laws that they will not be part of, they will not be for a generation they will not be part of.
To implement it or to enforce it.
Yes, Honorable Shaba, I really don't know what to say, and we saw some major expulsions, in the at the convention, Wiki, Fayoshe, Anyanwu, and others. So what does this tell us about, the power dynamics within the PDP? And we've just listened to the deputy youth leader talk about it with a lot of pain in his heart.
Yeah, I can see it from his from his point of view. But let me assure you, youth leader, I will refuse to die before I die. I can tell you that.
You're not that old, come on. You're not that old.
I'm not a juvenile here, please. We will not die. It's those who want to kill the party that will give way. They will have to give way, because some of us have natural attachment to the PDP. Yes. Whatever I've become, whatever I've ever been. It's not as if I've not been to other parties, but everything I owe politically, I can tie to the PDP. I went out and saw the difference and returned. Unfortunately, the place is being made so toxic for some of us. But by the grace of God, we will survive.
Are you out there now? You are still in there?
PDP? Very, very in.
Okay.
Very, very in. But let me talk. No, I don't belong to a faction. Let me tell you. I belong to the legal faction.
Yes.
The faction that opposes the rule of law. The faction that advocates the rule of law.
Okay.
Let's talk about, you're talking about expulsion in Ibadan.
Yes.
And the power dynamics.
And the power dynamics. It's ironic. What were the grounds for the expulsion? In a party that is seeking to come together to confront 2027, what are the grounds for the expulsion? Anti-party, you mean? It's laughable. Let me tell you, and I'm going to say it for free, from Damagun to Sheyi Makinde to Bode George to Wike to, you name every gladiator there, they are all as guilty as the persons they are accusing. 3 years ago, or down the lane, they were in cohorts, undermining the party.
That's true.
Thinking that they were doing Atiku in. Now the party is lying prostrate. Then the same persons will... A Damagun that was supposed to act for a certain time, and when it was time for him to leave, he took himself to court and the party restraining himself from vacating. You talk about what have they done that they have not done in the past together? Fayose, Wike, Bode George, and all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And mark you, it is it's even a principle of law. When the parties are equally at fault, you call it pari delicto. The position of the defendant is better. The accusers have no moral pedestal to anchor their accusation. But that is, by the way, the law courts are there. And like I did say earlier on, I mean, the PDP took an unjustified risk. I don't think for a party that is really desirous of competing in 2027, all this charity, and I mean, are necessary. You set up a reconciliatory committee before it has even done is... What do you say? See, unfortunately, it is those at the helm, those who have benefited more from the party, that are causing all of this confusion in the party. What is of sitting governors of the party extraction endorsing, and I mean, the candidate of another political party ahead of election? What do you say of the head of the BOT endorsing a governor other than that of his own party in his own state of origin? What do you say of that? So are these the same persons that have the moral ground to query ordinary party members' attitude or actions, and you label them anti-party? I don't think that is something anybody can legitimately say. But that is by no means an endorsement of what some others have done. But I'm saying head to head, when you put them at par, you will see that these are not better than the persons they are accusing. And I think if we're circumspect, if we know that we need to bury hatchets and move forward towards 2027, they will have been more careful. But in all of this, honestly, the future looks a bit gloomy. And unless and of course we have a total reorientation, what you might call some form of revolution, triggered by the youth. The youth. Yes, by the youth. Without necessarily taking out. I don't even know where do I even go. Certainly I don't belong to you. Whether I belong to that class, I wouldn't know. But honestly, it is worrisome. I hope someday we'll be able to sit down, look each other in the face and say, look, all of you have not done good enough. So let us bury the hatchet and start to rebuild this party. 2027, may Allah help us. But it looks to me like there are people who are also working desperately to ensure that we don't make any impact in 2027. Okay. But if you are the type that is fixated on 2027, you'll be too worried. I am not too bothered about 2027 because beyond 2027, there is life. There's life. If those who are in charge today did not start 5 years ago, you can be more careful, more calculated in your planning, and you will definitely get there. But one thing I can tell you for free, this country deserves better. Nigerians deserve a credible opposition, and that is why, where there is no opposition, impunity comes into governance. The government does not feel checked. It does not feel obligated to keep certain lines. That is why we're having some of the drift. I mean, we're experiencing some of the drift we're experiencing. If there was a viral opposition, there's no opposition there. No opposition in the executive, no opposition in the legislature, which is supposed to be the core of opposition politics. Our members are falling head over heels in love with decamping to the detriment of party cohesion.
Honorable, thank you so much. I mean, we all need a credible opposition, at least, to make the democracy very vibrant. Very. And it's really unfortunate that we're having this kind of development, especially in PDP, as supposed to be the major opposition party, to the present APC. But Jide, let me bring you in now with the election of a leader now for the PDP. Do you see him being able to unite the party and bring in sanity, you know, or would he further trigger the internal crisis?
You are turning me to a Nostradamus, the man who saw tomorrow. I don't know what Kabiru Turaki will do. He said at the convention ground that he will unify the party, but he also wants that he will no longer allow impunity to reign. So the issue is about ego, really. It's ego trip. And unless you calm down your IOS and decide, you see, the moment you start making enemy of certain people, politics is not church, it's not mosque. Even in church and mosque, it's all commerce affair. There is no church that will screen anybody and say. Even I used to say that there is a church in Ibadan, All Saints Church. I say it's a lie. There is no All Saints Church. So it's like the same for political parties. It's all commerce, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How you manage, anybody that wants to lead a party must be very skilled in human management. And the challenge I foresee is that PDP has gone through this path before. Remember the new PDP under Kawu Baraje from Kwara, when they formed the new PDP ahead of 2015 election. And that formed the basis upon which many defected. 5 of them who left the
PDP
Eagle Square. 7 of them left with the former vice president. 5 of them eventually, with Amici and the rest, joined APC on the premise that the party has become factionalized. And the last time me and Honorable Shaba were here, I was like, well, unfortunately, I think the guy will get justice on appeal. There was a House of Reps member who lost his seat in Samfara on the basis that they said there was no justification for him to have defected. But the truth, as I know it to be, is that PDP has been in crisis. There may not have been factionalization as we have it presently, where you now have 2 BOTs. You know, Abuja is chairing a BOT. Then you have a new self-confessed national chairman, factional. So these 2 groups have to meet. And like I said the last time we were here, INEC has a directorate of alternative dispute resolution. If they submit themselves to the arbitration or mediation of INEC, maybe they can help them forge a way ahead. Because even the court that they are waiting on cannot resolve. Like Dr. Adoyi said, court cannot resolve your issue for you. Supreme Court made a pronouncement on Labour Party. As Labour Party rested, the 2 factions, the Nenadi Usman faction, the Julius Abre faction, are having different interpretation of the Supreme Court decision. Imagine. Supreme Court. No court after Supreme Court. They have given their own judgment. Yet,
the interpretation is different.
Went with some people to INEC and said, see this section of the Supreme Court. It has said that Abure's tenure has ended. So we are the one in charge now. Abure wrote to INEC, see this section of the Supreme Court. We are still, our tenure has not ended. So where do you go from there? If the Supreme Court will make a pronouncement and you still be subjecting it to different interpretation, and they are putting INEC in a corner. But I'm happy. The new INEC chairman is also a senior advocate of Nigeria. Aside from the fact that INEC now have about 2 or 3 senior advocates, so the legal, maybe they will be able to have a more discerning perspective, because in all of this, they are putting INEC on the spot. INEC is joined in all litigations. And INEC cannot say, matter of fact, that this is the faction, this is not the faction. If you bring a court judgment today, INEC will obey it. If you bring a counter judgment tomorrow, INEC would say, this is the latest one, we are following. And that also affects electoral planning. So the meat of my own submission on your question, Ademola, is that the parties must come off their high horses. Allow for mediation.
Okay.
Because that is the only thing. Not even the court. I keep saying it. Go to Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court gives it, okay, you don't know at what point you get to Supreme Court now. The case is on appeal, isn't it? When the Court of Appeal makes a pronouncement, one of the dissatisfied party will say, I'm going to Supreme. While you are going to Supreme, the other parties are busy preparing for the next election. And I like the submission of Honorable Shaba. INEC should not just be fixated. I mean, PDP should not be fixated on 2027. They will not lose their certificate of registration if they don't win presidency in 2027. It's like Nigeria now. We are out of the World Cup. We have to prepare for 20. No, we have to. The next World Cup is next 4 years.
4 years.
So we have to prepare. So it doesn't matter if PDP does not return to power, because the danger I see for PDP is that INEC will announce the registration of new political parties in a matter of days or weeks. 8 of them has been pre-qualified, and I foresee before the end of this month, INEC can just issue a statement: this swollen party has been registered. What will happen? Those who do not find comfort in APC because they are foreseeing an implosion in APC, they will not go there. They will now go to any of these new parties, believing that if they are co-founder, it will, because the politician is interested in the next election. And if they are not sure, now we know that 2 or 3 governors may bail out of PDP before the end of the year. Where do they hold? Where will they go? It's a matter of which platform they believe they will not have problems for their re-election. So it is in the best interest of PDP to say, guys, we are all equal, we have all sinned, let's forgive ourselves, let's forge ahead. If they survive what happened in 2015, they can survive 2027. The matter is just for them to reach out. Genuine reconciliation is what is needed, not court pronouncement, not court decision or judgment. Otherwise, they will continue to hemorrhage. They will continue to bleed. And I hope they won't bleed to death.
Like Honorable Shaba said, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of
So
God.
he has become a pastor.
I didn't know he's an evangelist or a pastor.
So let's give the opportunity to our viewers. They've sent some messages and we're expecting more from our viewers. This is quite an interesting conversation. Let me begin with Mr. Jimmy from Akwa Ibom. He said, Mr. Ojo, I hail your understanding of Nigerian politics. At last, the Supreme Court will still serve the same judgment that they will not interfere with the internal problems of any party, the same way they did with the LP. He said he rests his case. And another one said, the judicial intervention in the internal affairs of political parties diminishes the autonomy expected from them. Internal party squabbling should be taken to family affair and resolved within the ambit of party constitution. I really find it odd that the state judiciary will be the one interpreting party constitution that can be changed by the party itself at its convenience. And Honorable Udo Chiemeke said, PDP as a party would have pursued the appeal it filed against the Justice Omotosho's judgment in the Supreme Court instead of going ahead with the National Convention. What they did was like a young man who killed his mother at night and buried her. Yet in the morning, his kinsmen asked him to provide the corpse of their sister, but to find out that she has been buried. Honorable Udo Chiemeke. So, Demola, do you have some?
Yes, I do.
But
maybe,
let's go to Omale
Dr.
first.
Omale to
yes.
probably respond to some of this.
Yes, there are 2 things I wanted to respond to. First and foremost, I want to respond to the issue of the suspension of some of the some of the officials or some of the leaders of PDP. This suspension has been long overdue. The level of indiscipline, the level of shenanigans, it's only a party like PDP that can tolerate most of the things that are happening. And let me say without fear of contradiction, one of the critical problems with the issue in PDP is the very day that some persons within PDP agree to serve in the cabinet of the APC, that already you have compromised. And it's very important. If people don't want to say it, I will say it. Well, once you leave your own political party and you join the cabinet of another political party, there's already conflict of interest. You don't need a rocket science to understand that there's already conflict of interest. Is it the government you are serving that you will be loyal to, or the party that is your political party? So already there's conflict of interest. So when we talk about reconciliation, when we are talking about that, you have to look at some of the underlying things that may make reconciliation very difficult. And that is a very critical issue. Secondly, the level of indiscipline. Party is no longer supreme. Everybody is doing whatever they feel like. Even if you are a governor, if whatever position you are under the party. So you can be disciplined by the party. If there's no discipline in political party, then there's no need for us to have in any association or any grouping. So to that extent, yes, I looked at the pronouncement, I look at the conduct, I look at the behavior of, at a point, some people will carry talks to the National Secretariat to go and enforce, pull out either one National Secretary or the other. At times, they carry supporters to go and stop a party meeting from going on. In fact, the last one I watched, I almost threw up. So the office of the national chairman was invaded and somebody was sitting rolling chair. I say, my God.
Just like the U.S. Congress.
Yes. So there's honestly, indiscipline has taken over the PDP. And until these things are sorted out. Then the second thing, the issue of youths. My colleague mentioned the issue of youths. Old people should not die off. I thought I should make that. Old people should not die off. The young people can take over power. If Kemi Badenoch can emerge as Conservative Party leader in the UK, if other young people, Macron, in his 30s, was able to emerge as the Prime Minister of France, why can we not, our young people, must we continue beating drums and dancing and no, let us go for power. I believe the young people in PDP and other political parties can organize themselves into a formidable force and take over party leadership. It's not about anybody dying. It's about you insisting.
I think he's speaking from the heart.
I know,
pain,
I understand. I only just wanted to address that aspect. Once you organize, you can take over power. Young people, all you need to do is to have a proper organization. And before you know it, you can push candidates to become governor, to become... In Benue State, we did it. Gabriel Suswam in his 30s, we all mobilized and said, no, we must. Yahya Bello was put there in Kogi State in his 30s. So it can be done.
So it can be done. Thank you so much, Dr. Omale.
It can be done. Yeah.
Yes, we have to go for a break now because of time. The director is calling for a break. And when we return, the discussion on the PDP convention will continue. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And the conversation is still on the PDP convention. And before we went on break, we had some comments and questions from some of our viewers, which we read out. We still have more, which I'm going to read out now so that some of our guests here can respond to them. This one is from Chike. Chike is from Warri, Delta State. He says, it's really unfortunate to see PDP struggling since they lost power in 2015. Internal issues have been lingering, and it's like they are just discovering solutions now. The recent decision to suspend some members of the anti-party activities is a good step. And honestly, it should have happened a long time ago. I believe the recent convention would serve as the right forum to address these internal issues and get their house in order before 2027 general election. I think there is still room for them to sort themselves out and come back stronger. This is from Professor Mojid Alabi. Professor Mojid Alabi is from Oshogbo, Osun State, and he's directing his question to his comment to Jide Ojo. He said, Jide Ojo interpreting the law wrongly. The judgment of the Supreme Court, he said, is the law, and it remains effective until it is reversed. PDP doesn't have to go to the Supreme Court to validate his decision. Only those aggrieved can challenge the decision. Jide will respond to that later, right? Okay, and this is from Abdul Ibrahim Iyaji Lafia. He said, with the PDP National Convention in Ibadan now concluded, the party has an opportunity to move past recent disagreement and rebuild unity. The new leadership is encouraged to focus on reconciliation, strengthen internal democracy, communicate openly with members, and address any post-convention grievances peacefully by empowering grassroots structures and aligning everyone towards a common agenda. The PDP can use this convention as a fresh beginning and reposition itself as a stronger and more credible democratic party. Timothy, you want to respond to this last one?
First, I see most of our people responding to our constituents here, maybe from what they have heard from some of us here. First, there was no convention in Ibadan. What they did in Ibadan...
How do you describe what?
I can say it's an early Christmas party gathering. I can say it's a carnival. I can say it's a friend, PDP members that are friends of Sheyi Makinde being hosted, and some cheerleaders were elected. But the truth is this: you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. Was there a competent judgment that says hold, 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 and hold? Yes, there was. And what now happens when you now run foul of that court judgment? Now the cheerleaders they have elected to champion or to continue their gerrymandering, are they going to go and impose those names on INEC and put them in INEC server by themselves when the court has told INEC do not participate, and INEC did not participate truly? We saw the chairman of the national Ibadan party, Governor Fintiri, saying, I beg to take my leave from this gathering, seeing that INEC is not here and there are competent judgment against this gathering from holding. I beg to leave, and I leave the delegates to decide what to do for themselves. We heard him on national TV. We saw the other gentleman from Katsina, Senator Lado, who said, I beg to excuse myself from this contest for national chairman, owing to the series of litigations against this convention from holding. Therefore, I cannot continue. He pulled out. People that were loyal to him thinking there was a convention, or those that were in charge of allocating the votes gave him 200 something votes. But either you get 200 or get 2,000 or get 2 million votes, it would not have still amounted to nothing. All what they did there is a nullity in the eyes of the law. So why are you now congratulating a man who has won a trophy that amounts to nothing, or a clay cup? So first, let's put this in perspective. There was no trophy won by anybody, whether a senior advocate or a native doctor. There was nothing won. What the PDP needs now is genuine reconciliation.
So how do we go about the genuine reconciliation?
This, my guy here talk about coming down from the high horses. Some of these horses have gone into the heavenlies, so they need to take a long while to come down to the earth and face reality that they must sit down in the room and judge her and look for a way out. Even if it means having, like Dr. Saraki suggested, having an interim management committee or thereabout. You must know, convention should not even be your topmost priority today.
But Damagu was an interim chairman.
Damagu,
and like Damagu said, he went to court to...
As of today now, I'm aware that Ambassador Damagu is on suspension before he went to that Ibadan Carnival.
Okay. Jide, there was somebody who said something. Can you respond to it?
Okay. I know Professor Majid Alabi. You know, he's a highly respected former Speaker, Osun State House of Assembly, former House of Reps member, a professor of political science, a professor of law as well, and dean of faculty of law in Osun State University. So it's someone I know very well. But I think it wasn't, maybe Prof wasn't attentive to my own submission. I know that Supreme Court is sacrosanct. What we are saying is that the Seyi Makinde Bala Mohammed faction that went to old convention were working on presumption and assumption that by the time this case gets to Supreme Court, they will be right, because the court is likely status decisis, status decisis, that whatever has the court, it's just like when the when Supreme Court ruled that it is wrong for a governor to dissolve local government, elected local government, or that it's wrong for them to dissolve State Independent Electoral Commission. There have been 3 or 4 Supreme Court decisions on the same matter, but politicians will still go. They will still go, even when Supreme Court severally have said this is our own position, and they have not altered that position, and that is the presumption upon which the should I say the newly elected, the court will be the one to decide whether it was a carnival or a early Christmas party or whatever. It's the court that will make a pronouncement. You and I can pontificate for all we know, but what I'm saying is that yes, Supreme Court position is sacrosanct. The party that went on with their convention is working on the assumption that time is not on our side. Before we wait for Court of Appeal to decide, don't also forget that politicians are in the habit, Honorable said it, forum shopping. Court of Appeal, a lot of undercurrent on, even when they see that the decision of Court of Appeal is pending, they may go to another appeal that will first go to Supreme Court to determine whether, you see them talking about issue of locus, they see them talking about issue of jurisdiction, all because they want to delay when the court will speak. And why all of this is being done, I said earlier on about timelines. Because if you want to be part of the 2027 party, this is your best time to resolve your internal crisis. And the fastest way, which I agree with my brother, Saraki just suggested, have a caretaker committee. They had a caretaker committee where McAfee, you remember, before the election of Uche Secondus, they had a caretaker committee when they pushed out Adimodu Sheriff. And Adimodu Sheriff went to court, and before the Supreme Court decision was made to talk about legality or otherwise of Adimodu Sheriff's leadership or continuing leadership, they put in place a former governor of Kaduna State, McAfee's caretaker committee. If that is the route they want to have, okay, whatever billions have been spent in Ibadan is part of the laws. Let's have a caretaker committee. Let the two factions bring names, and then let them foster genuine reconciliation, because their hope is not in any court. Okay. If they get to Supreme Court 200 times, the same verdict may be placed, but who will INEC recognize? Because in all of this, my concern is those who want to contest under the party in 2027. The reason why any interested contestant will be worried is who signs my nomination form. Two signatures are very important. Chairman and secretary. And if you are at loggerheads about who is your secretary today, who is your chairman tomorrow, like Dr. Adoyi said, you have somebody invading the party headquarters, chasing out. At some point, INEC said this year that, look, PDP, come. Who is actually your national secretary? The first correspondence we have for you, you said is Samayawu. Second correspondence, Udeju Dokoye. Third correspondence was not even signed by secretary. And you are inviting us to a forum or meeting or whatever. So it was after that conversation with INEC that they now say, okay, we will recognize Samayawu. So Ayawu continued to sign correspondence. But recently, even this same Ibadan Convention, when Samayawu claimed that his signature was forged on the letter inviting INEC to that convention.
Yeah, that's true.
If you remember.
Yeah.
So it then puts anyone who is serious contender for 2027 to put their faith and trust in PDP, knowing full well how much you have to spend. It's not even the nomination form. That one is the list of a worry for a contestant. It's about the validity of the outcome. And don't, please, sorry, let me land on this talk.
In 30 seconds.
What happened to APC in 2019? People should not forget. In APC, where people who won under that party in Zamfara all have their certificate of election withdrawn and given to first runner-up on the basis that they didn't conduct proper primary. In fact, in that same 2019, APC in Rivers did not field any candidate. They didn't. The court said, Supreme Court said, you don't have candidate based on the fact that there was internal party crisis.
Okay, thank you so much. You know, from all indication, the INEC is in between the devil and the pussy here. And Honorable Shaba, what does this crisis, mean for, Nigeria's democracy, considering that PDP is a major opposition party and things are just not working? Before you answer that question, let me take this contribution from Abdul Ibrahim Yaji. He said to address anti-party activities and leaders refusing reconciliation, the PDP must reinforce internal discipline, apply its rules fairly and engage resistant leaders through calm dialogue led by respected elders. A neutral peace committee should be set up to identify grievances, promote healing and rebuild trust. Strengthening transparency and empowering grassroots structures will reduce internal sabotage. With forgiveness and a fresh commitment to unity, the party can move forward stronger and more focused. And of course, you are part of everything that is going to go down.
Very quickly, is the PDP and perhaps other Nigerians that are in quandary as to where INEC stands? INEC is not in confusion.
Okay.
I mean, get that straight. You can continue to fool around, mess ourselves around sufficiently. INEC knows where it's headed. There's no argument about that. Secondly, people talk about Supreme Court decision. It's not sufficient to go about banding, citing authorities without a corresponding relationship with the facts of the case. No two facts of cases are exactly the same. Supreme Court talked about internal affairs of the party. You must situate what is happening within the confines of what is internal affairs of the party before that Supreme Court decision can make meaning. Authorities, court decisions are authorities for what they decide alone. The judicial precedence is founded on what has been decided. There is no precedence by analogy or by assumption. Just like Jide has alluded to, people are sitting down there and projecting into tomorrow as to what possible step the courts will take futuristically to validate what has already been done in brazen defiance of existing court orders. How ingenious can we be? So I want to say that what constitutes internal affairs of the parties is not completely settled. Okay. But there are some that I can tell you for free are internal affairs. Like the issues relating to nomination. You see, if you look at the encompassing gamut of Section 284 and maybe 85 of the Electoral Act, which seem to be in pari materia with each other, these two sections will tell you what constitutes, for instance, internal affairs, and I think it has something to do with nomination. So if you look at two scenarios, the ones that went Omotosho's case, Lamido's case, in my humble view, the Lamido example would suffice as internal affairs of the party. Refusing to buy form or not refusing to buy form should be the internal affairs of the party. That is an opinion that I'm rendering. But are you going to say that even if you thought that was it, that was sufficient to ignore the decisions, I mean, the pronouncements of a court of law, properly so called, when did it become our responsibility to decide which one is valid and which one is not valid? If you go along that route, it's a recipe for crisis, chaos, organized confusion. And that is what we're experiencing presently. So we need to really know that while we're talking about law and order, there is no self-help. You can't resort to self-help. That is what I see that some of us are doing. You have adjudged this decision a nullity, and so we're not going to obey it.
All right, thank you.
That
Thank
does
you,
not lie in
Honorable.
your mouth. Howsoever highly placed you may be.
Because of time, we just have to interject there so that we can have parting shots from Dr. Omale and Osadolo. Dr. Omale, you know, earlier Osadolo has raised the issue of electoral reform, you know, so that all these crises and problem can be actually resolved. From your own perspective, do you think the current electoral regulations are adequate enough for ensuring integrity of party, convention, settling internal crises and all that?
In 1 minute, please.
Yes, every time we talk about politics, we talk about reforms, amending electoral act and so on. I think we have sufficient laws that govern our political space for now. Yes, there might be one or two issues, like issue of electronic transmission of results, which the court ruled has not been entrenched in our electoral law. But outside issues of introducing more transparency in the area of electronic transfer of results and so on, real-time online transmission of election results, I think sufficient rules have been put on ground. Political parties have their constitutions, they have their ground norms to run their primaries, and I think those are sufficient enough. So we need just little tinkering if there is need for tinkering with the Electoral Act. But by and large, I think what we have on ground is can still carry on with the 2027 election.
Okay. Timothy Osadolo, what's the way forward for the party now?
For the party, I want to go with the doctor who earlier said everybody should come down from their high horses and everybody should come back and talk to each other and have a genuine reconciliation, not court enforced or court dictated settlements. Because at the end of the day, a victory in court over one side or the other side is a Pyrrhic victory in the long run. So we need ourselves. But nobody should carry on as if he has won anything for now. Nothing has been won. Nothing has been totally lost. There's still room to judge, and there's still room for us to rebuild. Okay,
indeed, and we'll be monitoring what happens in the future so that we can come back here and talk about it more, you know, to understand the dynamics in that's happening in the PDP. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Honorable Shaba Ibrahim, former member House of Representatives and legal practitioner, joined us here in the studio. Gideon Ojo, public affairs analyst, Abuja studio. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Chief.
Dr. Ade, Chief. Dr. Adoyi Matthew Omale, political scientist. As always, it's a pleasure to have you guys in the studio. And Timothy Osadolo, Deputy National Youth Leader, PDP. I hope the pain goes from your heart. Sit up and collect the power. Don't let them die. Yes, allow them.
Don't kill the elders, because you see, don't kill the elders, because you will become elder one day.
One day.
When you become the elders, the youth will be praying that you die.
Okay. So, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much for coming. I feel there should have been a woman here so that we can talk. I feel left out, actually. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll be here tomorrow with another interesting topic to talk about. I am Jomo Yusuf.
And I'm Adimola. You do have a lovely day.